probably the cutest story you'll ever read in the world. Today I'm going to review Flora Ulysses by Kate Dicamillo. I finished this last night and it was probably the cutest thing I've ever read. In fact, I probably have diabetes because of how sweet this is. I admit that wasn't the greatest joke, but we're just gonna move on. As you can see, I read this on my Kindle, and I kind of wish that I didn't read this on my Kindle and had the physical copy because it has illustrations in it, and I bet that would look so adorable, just holding it in real life. Glare, 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 glare. So Flora Ulysses is a middle grade novel, meaning that the main character is about 10 or 11 years old. So it starts off with this girl named Flora, which is this little girl right here. She refers to herself as a cynic. And you might be thinking that the word cynic is kind of a big word for a little girl. And I agree also, but I'll get back to that towards the end of this review. And you start seeing why she refers to herself as a cynic. Her parents are divorced, and she doesn't really have a lot of things to feel optimistic about in her life. And it all kind of changes when she meets this little squirrel that gets vacuumed by their neighbor's vacuum, and then he gains superpowers from it. And then Flora saves the squirrel, names him Ulysses, and decides to become his sidekick. This book was the Newbery Award winner this year, and because I really like children's books and I really want to be a writer of children's books, I decided to get it and to see why it won the Newbery Award. So a few first impressions of this book: it is partially illustrated. I'm not sure if this helps or hinders the book, but I really like the illustrations. It really painted a picture. Wow, really, the illustrations painted a picture. It definitely added a different dimension to this novel and to the way it tells its story. The one complaint I have about the illustrations is that it doesn't really allow much room for imagination. I'm worried that that might take away from the reader's experiences, particularly the children's reading experience, because I definitely think that children have an imagination all on their own and they don't really need that extra boost. The writing is really cute and really straightforward and understandable. The characters are really awesome and funny. They're more like caricatures, but I think that's the most you could really do with a children's book. I mean, Flora is this 10-year-old cynic, and then her mother is just this wiry-haired, crazy romance author who smokes occasionally. So you have those kinds of characters in this novel. Not very relatable per se, or not very layered, but you know, they're very entertaining. And despite the fact that this is a children's novel, it deals with a lot of darker issues like divorce and children dealing with their parents being divorced. And I think that really caters towards adult readers too, so I really enjoyed that layer. On the whole, I think that children can enjoy the humorous aspects despite how some of the darker themes are there. So there are a few complaints I do have about this book. What I've kind of noticed about some children's books is that there's a disconnect between the children's book and the readers, which are supposed to be the children. And that's why I think it's a little bit problematic for the Newbery Award to award these kinds of books, because essentially the Newbery Award is about American children's novels that will last till the end of time. But the Newbery Award is awarded by adults. So I'm not really sure if children would really like this book or would really wholly connect with this book without an adult mindset, which they don't have. Specifically, I mean that the language in here is a little bit high for kids. I mean, there's a lot of words in there that I don't even know. It doesn't give you a very good definition of those words either to put into context. And I don't know if like 10-year-old kids will be able to understand a lot of what this book is about. I mean, I think they would be really taken out of the reading experience by coming across these words or these phrases that they honestly can't understand. For example, there's this one part where Flora's dad was driving, and then the narrator noticed how Flora's dad was putting his hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, and I don't even know if kids know what that is. And also I read on Goodreads some of the reviews on there. A lot of people really liked this book, and some people were really turned off by it, and I do see where they're coming from. One person in particular said that this book sounds like it's talking down to children, which I can totally see. It almost has this campy, like, oh, I was once a kid, and it didn't really give children the sort of respect that I would have expected for this book to give children. Overall, I do really like this book. It was really fun to read, and I think adults would really like reading this. I'm not sure for children though. If you have a kid and you read this to them, I want to know what your kid thinks. Well, that's all really I have to say for this book. I really hope you enjoyed this review, and if you have or want to read this book, please tell me in the comments and we'll talk down there, because that's the party. That is the house party. I've been out of college for way too long. Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Bye.